Hi guys, I'm back. Today I'm going to read 2 Samuel 16 to 21, Proverbs 15, and Psalm 139. Let's get started. When David had passed a little beyond the summit, Ziba the son of Mephibosheth met him, and with a couple of donkeys saddled, bearing 200 loaves of bread, 100 bunches of raisins, 100 of summer fruits, and a skin of wine. And the king said to Ziba, "Why have you brought these?" Ziba answered, "The donkeys are for the king's household to ride on, the bread and the summer fruit for the young men to eat, and the wine for those who faint in the wilderness to drink." And the king said, "And where is your master's son?" And Ziba said to the king, "Behold, he remains in Jerusalem." For he said, "Today the house of Israel will give me back to the kingdom of my father." And the king said to Ziba, "Behold, all that belonged to Mephibosheth is now yours." Then Ziba said, "I'll be your home and just let me if I found favor in your sight, my lord the king." And David came to Bahurim, and there came out a man of the family of the house of Saul, whose name was Shimei, the son of Gera. And as he came, he cursed continually, and he threw stones at David and at all the servants of King David. And all the people cursed, and all the mighty men who were on his right hand and on his left. And Shimei said as he cursed, get out, you man of blood, you worthless man, and the Lord has avenged on you all the blood of the house of Saul. In whose place you have reigned, and the Lord has given you the kingdom into the hand of your son Absalom. So your evil is on you, for you are a man of blood." And Abishai the son of Zeruiah said to the king, "Why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Let me go over and take off his head." And the king said, "What is I to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? If he is cursing because the Lord has said to curse David, who then shall say, why have you done so?" And David said to Abishai and all the servants, "Behold, I earnestly seek my life. How much more may this Benjamin I? Even alone, and let him curse, for the Lord has told him to. It may be that the Lord will look on the wrong done to me, and that the Lord will repay me with good for his cursing today." So David and his men went on that way, while Shimei went along on the hillside opposite him, and cursed as he went, and threw stones at him, and flung dust. And the king and all the people who were with him arrived weary at the Jun, and there he refreshed himself. And Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, came to Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. And when Hushai the Archite, David's friend, came to Absalom, Hushai said to Absalom, "Long live the king, long live the king." And Absalom said to Hushai, "Is this your loyalty to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend?" And Hushai said to Absalom, "No, for whom the Lord and this people and all the men of Israel have chosen, his I will be, and with him I will remain. And again, whom should I serve? Should not be his son. As I have served your father, so I will serve you." And Absalom said to Ahithophel, "Give your counsel, what shall we do?" Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Go into your father's concubine, whom he is left to keep the house. And all Israel will hear that you have made yourself a stench to your father, and the hands of all who are with you will be strengthened." So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom went into his father's concubine, in sight of all Israel. Now in those days the counsel that Ahithophel gave was as if one consulted the word of God. So was all the counsel of Ahithophel esteemed, both by David and by Absalom. And moreover, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "I may choose 12,000 men, and I will arise and pursue David tonight. I'll come upon him while he was weary and discouraged, and throw him into a panic, and all the people who are with him will flee. I will strike down only the king, and I will bring all the people back to you, so bride comes home to her husband. You seek the life of only one man, and all the people will be at peace." And the advice seemed right in the eyes of Absalom and all the elders of Israel. And Absalom said, "Call Hushai the Archite, and let us hear what he has to say." And when Hushai came to Absalom, Absalom said, "Thus has Ahithophel spoken. Shall we do as he says? If not, you speak." Then Hushai said to Absalom, "This time the counsel that Ahithophel has given is not good." Hushai said, "You know that your father and his men are mighty men, and that they are enraged, like a bear robbed of her calves in the field. Besides, your father is expert in war. He will not spend the night with her people. Behold, even now he has hidden himself in one of the pits or in some other place. And as soon as some of the people fall at the first attack, whoever hears it will say, there has been slaughter among the people who follow Absalom. And even the valiant men, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will utterly melt with fear. For all Israel knows that your heart is a mighty man, and that those who are with him are valiant men. And my counsel is that all Israel be gathered to you, from Dan to Beersheba, as the sand by the sea for multitude, and that you go to bow and pass him. So we shall come upon him in some place where he is to be found, and we shall light upon him as the dew falls on the ground. And all of him and all of the men who is in, not one which will be left. If he withdraws into the sea, then all Israel will bring ropes to that sea, and we shall drag it into the river, until not even a pebble is to be found there. And Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the counsel of Hushai the archer is better than the counsel of the Ahithophel. But the Lord has ordained to defeat the good counsel of Ahithophel, so that the Lord might bring harm upon Absalom. And Hushai said to Zadok and Abiathar the priest, thus and so did Ahithophel counsel Absalom and the others of Israel, and thus and so have I counseled. Now therefore send quickly and tell David, do not stay tonight at the fords of the wilderness, but by all means pass over, lest the king and all the people who are with him be swallowed up. Now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were waiting at En-Rogel. A female servant was entering the city, but a young man saw them and told Absalom. So both of them went away quickly and came to the house of a man who had a well in his courtyard. And as he went down into it, and the water took and spread a covering over the well's mouth, and scattered grain on it, and nothing was known of it. And Absalom's servants came to the wall at the house. They said, where's Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, they have gone over the brook of water, and they saw it and could not find them. They returned to Jerusalem. After they had gone, the man came up out of the well and told King David, and he said to him, arise and go quickly over the water. Thus and so has Ahithophel counsel against you. And David arose and all they who were with him, and they crossed the Jordan. At daybreak, not one was left who did not cross the Jordan. And Ahithophel saw that his counsel was not followed. He saddled his donkey and went off home to his own city. He stood his house in order and hanged himself, and Dinah was buried in the tomb of his father. And David came to Mahanaim, and Absalom crossed the Jordan with all the men of Israel. Now Absalom had sent Amasa over the army instead of Joab, and Amasa was the son of a man named Ithra the Ishmaelite, who had married Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. And Israel and Absalom encamped in the land of Gilead. When David came to Mahanaim, there Shobi the son of Nahash from Rabbah of the Ammonites, and Micaiah the son of Amiel from Lodebar, and Barzillai the Gileadite, and Rogelim brought beds, basins, and earthen vessels, wheat, barley, flour, parched grains, beans, and lentils, honey and curds, and sheep and cheese from the herd, for David and the people with him to eat. They said, the people are hungry and weary and thirsty in the wilderness. And David mustered the men who were with him and set over them commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. And David sent out the army, 1/3 under the command of Joab, 1/3 under the command of Abishai the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and 1/3 under the command of Ishai the Gittite. And the king said to them, I myself will also go out with you. But the men said, you shall not go. If we flee, they will not care about us. If half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. Therefore it is better that you send us out from the city. The king said to him, whatever seems best to you, I will do. So the king stood at the side of the gate, while all the army marched out by thousands and by hundreds and by thousands. And the king ordered Joab and Abishai, deal gently for my sake with the young man Absalom. And all the people heard when the king gave orders to all the commanders about Absalom. So the army went out into the field against Israel, and the battle was fought in the forest of Ephraim. And the men of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David. And the loss there was great on that day, 20,000 men. And the battle spread over the face of all the country. And in the forest devoured more people that day than the sword. And Absalom happened to meet the servants of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the thick branches of a great oak, and his head caught fast in the oak, and he was suspended between heaven and earth, while the mule that was under him went on. And the servant men saw it and told Joab, behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak. And Joab said to the man who told him, what, you saw him? Why then did you not strike him dead to the ground? I would have been glad to give you 10 pieces of silver and a bow. But the man said to Joab, even if I felt in my hand the weight of 1,000 pieces of silver, I would not reach out my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you and Abishai and Ittai, for my sake protect the young man and Absalom. On the other hand, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and you yourself would have stood aloof. And Joab said, I will not waste time like this with you. And he took 3 javelins in his hand and thrust them into the horn of Absalom, while he was still alive in the yoke. Then 10 young men, Joab's armor-bearers, surrounded Absalom and struck him and killed him. And Joab led the charge, and his troops came back from pursuing him. But Joab restrained them, and they took Absalom and threw him into a great pit in the forest, and raised over him a very great heap of stones. And all Israel fled, every one to his own home. Absalom in his lifetime had taken set for himself to fill that is in the king's palace. For he said, I have no son to keep my name in remembrance. He called the hill after his own name. It is called Absalom's monument to this day. And Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said, let me run and carry news to the king that the Lord has delivered him from the hand of the man, his enemy. And Joab said to him, you are not to carry news today. You may carry news another day. And today you shall carry no news, because the king's son is dead. And Joab said to the Cushite, go, tell the king what you have seen. The Cushite bowed before Joab and ran. Then Ahimaaz, son of Zadok, said again to Joab, come what may, let me also run after the Cushite. And Joab said, why will you run, my son, seeing that you have no reward for the news? Come what may, he said, I'll run. So he said to him, run. Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain, and outran the Cushite. Now David was sitting between the 2 gates, and the watchman went up to the roof of the gate by the wall. And when he lifted up his eyes and looked, he saw a man running alone. And the watchman called out and told the king. And the king said, if he is running alone, there is news in his mouth. And he drew near and near. The watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gate and said, see, another man running alone. And the king said, he also brings news. And the watchman said, I think the running of the first is like the running of Ahimaaz, son of Zadok. He is a good man and comes with good news. And Ahimaaz cried out to the king, all is well, and he bowed before the king with his face to the earth, and said, blessed be the Lord your God, who has delivered up the man who raised up their hand against the Lord the king. And the king said, is it well with the young man Absalom? And Ahimaaz answered, when Joab sent the king's servant against him, I saw a great commotion, but I did not know what it was. And the king said, turn aside and stand here. So he turned aside and stood still, and behold, the Cushite came. And the Cushite said, good news for my lord the king. The Lord has delivered you this day from the hand of all who rise up against you. And the king said to Cushite, is it well with the young man Absalom? And the Cushite answered, may the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up against you, for evil be like that young man. And the king was deeply moved and went up to the chamber over that gate and wept. And as he went, he said, oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom, would I have died instead of you, O Absalom, my son, my son? It was told Joab, behold, the king is weeping and mourning for Absalom. So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people. When the people heard that day, the king is grieving for his son. And the people stole into the city that day, as people steal and who are ashamed when they flee in battle. And the king covered his face, and the king cried with loud voice, oh, my son Absalom, O Absalom, my son, my son. And Joab came into the house to the king and said, you have today come with shame the faces of all your sons. You have this day saved your life and the lives of your sons and your daughters and the lives of your wife and your concubines, because you love those who hate you and hate those who love you. For you made it clear today that commands and servants are nothing to you. For today I know that if Absalom were alive and all of us were dead today, then you'll be pleased. Now therefore arise, go out and speak currently to yourselves. For I swear by the Lord, if you do not go, not a man will stay with you this night. And this will be worse for you than all the evil that has come upon you from your youth until now. And the king arose and took a seat in the gate. And all the people were all told. Behold, the king was sitting in the gate, and all the people came before the king. Now Israel had fled every man to his own home. And all the people were arguing throughout all the tribes of Israel, saying, the king has delivered us from the hand of our enemies and saved us from the hand of the Philistines. And now he's fled out of the land from Absalom. And Absalom, whom he anointed us, is dead in battle. Now therefore why do you send back bring the king back? And King David sent this message to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. Say to the elders of Judah, why should you be the last to bring the king back to his house? And the word of all Israel have come to the king. You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then should you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? God, do so to me more, if you are not commander of my army from now on in place of Joab. And he persuaded the heart of all the men of Judah as one man. So as they sent word to the king, return both you and all your servants. So the king came back to Jun, and Judah came back to Gilgal to meet the king and to bring the king over the Jordan. And Shimei the son of Gera of the Benjaminite from Bahrain hired to come down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And with him were 1,000 men from Benjamin, and Ziba the servant of the house of Saul, with 15 sons and his 27, rushed down to the Jordan before the king. And they caused the ford to bring over the king's household and to do its light. And Shimei the son of Gera fell down before the king, and she was rushed across the Jordan, and said to the king, "Never my lord hold me guilty or remember how this I did wrong, and that the day my lord the king left Jerusalem. However, you take it to heart. For 7 days I have said, therefore, behold, I have come this day, the first of all the house of Joseph, to come down to meet my lord the king. Abishai the son of Zeruiah answered, shall not Shimei be put to death for this, because he cursed the Lord's anointed? But David said, what have I to do to you, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should this day be as an adversary to me? Shall anyone be put to death in Israel this day? For I do not know that I am this day king over Israel. And the king said to Shimei, you shall not die. And the king gave him his oath. And Mephibosheth, son of Saul, came down to meet the king. He had neither taken care of his feet, nor trimmed his beard, nor washed his clothes. From the day the king departed until the day he came back in safety. And he came to Jerusalem to meet the king. And the king said, why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? He answered, my lord, O king, my servant deceived me. And his servant said to him, I will sell a donkey for myself, that I may ride on it and go with the king. For your servant is lame. He slandered your servant to my lord the king. My lord the king is like the angel of God. Do therefore what seems good to you. For all my father's house were but men doomed to death, before my lord the king. But you set your servant among those who eat at your table. What further right have I then to cry to the king? And the king said to him, why speak any more of your affairs? I have decided you and Ziba shall divide the land. When Mephibosheth said to the king, let him take it also, must my lord the king come safely home. Now Barzillai the Gileadite had come down from Regal, and he went on with the king to the Jordan, to escort him over the Jordan. Barzillai was a very aged man, 80 years old. He provided the king with food while he stayed at Mahanaim, for he was a very wealthy man. And the king said to Barzillai, come over with me, and I'll provide for you with me in Jerusalem. But Barzillai said to the king, how many years have I still to live, that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? And this day 80 years old, and I discern what is pleasant and what is not, and discern taste what he eats or what he drinks. Can I still listen to the voice of sin and sin my very should your servant be an odd bone to my lord the king? Your servant will go a little way over the Jordan with the king. Should the king repay me with such a reward? It is not that your servant returned. Now I died in my innocence near the grave of my father and mother. Now here's your servant Chimham. Let him go over with my lord the king, and you do for him whatever seems good to you. And the king answered, Chimham shall go over with me, and I'll do for him whatever seems good to you. And all that you desire of me, I'll do for you. And all the people went over the Jordan, and the king went over, and the king kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his own home. And the king went on to Gilgal, and Chimham went on with him. All the people of Judah, and as half the people rose up with the king in this way. And all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, why have our brothers and men of Judah stolen your weight and brought the king and his household over the Jordan? All David's men with him. All the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is our close relative. Why then are you angry over this man? How have we eaten at all the king's expense? Has he given us any gift? And the men of Israel answered the men of Judah, you 10 shares in the king. And David also we give more than you. Why then did you despise us? Are we not the first to speak of to bring back our king? The words of the men of Judah were fiercer than the words of the men of Israel. Now there happened to be there a worthless man whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri of Benjamin, and he blew the trumpet and said, we have no portion in David, we have no inheritance in the son of Jesse. And every man to his tent, O David. So all the men withdrew from David and followed the Sheba, son of Bichri. The men of Judah continued, followed the king steadfastly on the Jordan to Jerusalem. And David came to his house at Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 concubines who he had left to care for the house, and put them in a house under God and provided for them, where they did not go into. So they were shut up until the day of their death, and living as in widowhood. And the king said to Amasa, call the men of Judah together to me within 3 days. and be here yourself. So Massa went to summon Judah, and he delayed beyond the set time that had to be appointed him. And David said to Abishai, now Shadow, son of Bitri, will do us more harm than Absalom. And take your Lord's servants and pursue him, lest he get himself to fortified cities to escape from. And they went out after him, Joab's men, and the Cherethites, and the Pelethites, and all the mighty men. They went out from Jerusalem to pursue shepherds and military. And they were at the great stone that is in Gibeon. And Massa came to meet them. Now Joab was wearing a soldier's garb, and everywhere was a belt with a sword in its chest fastened on its thigh. And as he went forward, it fell out. And Joab said to Massa, is it well with you, my brother? And Joab took Massa by the beard in his right hand to kiss him. And Massa did not observe the sword that was in Joab's hand. As Joab struck him with it, and the summit, his was entrails to the ground without striking a second blow, and he died. And Joab and Abishai the second brother pursued Sheba the son of Bitri. And one of Joab's young men took a stand by Amasa and said, whoever favors Joab, and whoever is for David, let him follow Joab. Amasa lay wallowing in his blood and in the highway. And Aaron came by seeing him, stopped. And when the men saw that all the people stopped, he carried Amasa out of the highway into a field, and he was taken out of the highway. All the people went on after Joab to pursue Sheba the son of Bitri. And Sheba passed through all the tribes of Israel to Abel and Beth Maacah, and all the tribes assembled and fought him. And all of them who were with him came and besieged against him, Abel and Beth Maacah. They cast up a mountain against the sea. It stood against the rampart, and they were burying the wall to die down. And a wise woman called from the sea, listen, tell Joab, come here, that I may speak to you. And he came near, and the woman said, are you Joab? He answered, I am. And she said, listen to the Lord, and I am listening. So they said, they used the same 4 times, let them ask, but ask counsel at Abel. And so they said, I am one of those who are peaceable and faithful in Israel. You seek to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why will you swallow up the heritage of the Lord? Joab answered, far be it from me, far be it that I should swallow up or destroy. That is not true, but imagine the hill country of Ephraim, called Sheba the son of Bitri, has lifted up his hand against King David. Give up him alone, and I will withdraw from the sea. And the woman said to Joab, behold, his head shall be thrown to you over the wall. And the woman went to all the people in her wisdom, and they cut off the head of Sheba the son of Bitri and threw it out to Joab. So he blew the trumpet, and they dispersed from the city, every man to his house. And Joab returned to Jerusalem to the king. Now Joab was in command over all the army of Israel, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada was in command of the Cherethites and the Pelethites, and Adoram was in charge of the forced labor, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilah was the recorder, and Sheba was secretary, and Zadok and Abiathar were the priests, and Ira the Jairite was also David's priest. Now there was a famine in the days of David for 30 years, year after year, and David saw the face of the Lord, and the Lord said, and his blood guilt and sword on his house, because he put the Gibeonites to death. And then the king called the Gibeonites and spake to them. Now the Gibeonites were not the people of Israel, of the remnant of the Amorites. Now although the people of Israel had sworn to spare them, Saul had sought to strike them down in his zeal for the people of Israel and Judah. And David said to the Gibeonites, what shall I do for you, and how shall I make atonement, that you may bless the heritage of the Lord? The Gibeonites said to him, it is not a matter of silver or gold between us or Saul of his house, neither is it for us to put any man's death in Israel. And they said, what do you say that I shall do for you? He said to the king, the man who consumed us and planned to destroy us, so that we should have no place in all the territory of Israel, let 7 of his sons be given to us, so that we may hang them before the Lord and keep the other Saul, the chosen of the Lord. And the king said, I will give them. And the king spared Mephibosheth, the son of Saul's son Jonathan, because the oath of the Lord that was between David and Jonathan's son Saul. And the king took 2 sons of Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, whom she bore to Saul, Almoni and Mephibosheth. And the 5 sons of Merah, the daughter of Saul, whom she bore to Adriel, the son of Barzillai, son of Barzillai, in the hell of the fire. And he gave them into the hands of the Gibeonites, and they hanged them on the mountain before the Lord. And 7 of them perished together. They were put to death in the first days of harvest, and at the beginning of the harvest. And Rizpah, the daughter of Aiah, took sackcloth and spread it for himself on the rock from the beginning of harvest until rain fell upon them from the heavens. And she did not allow the birds of the air to come upon them by day, or the beasts of the field by night. And David was told that what whispered the daughter by the concubine of Saul had done. David went and took the bones of Saul and the bones of his concubine, son Jonathan, from the men of Jabesh Gilead, who was sold in the public square at Bethshan, where the Philistines hanged. On the day the Philistines killed Saul in Gilboa, and he brought from there the bones of Saul and the bones of his son Jonathan. And they gathered the bones of those who were hanged, and they buried the bones of Saul and his son Jonathan in the land of Benjamin and Saul in the tomb of Kish his father. And they did all that the king commanded, and after that God responded to the plea for the land. There was a war between the Philistines and Israel, and David went down together with his son, and they fought against the Philistines. And David grew weary, and Ishbi-Benob, one of the descendants of the giants, whose spear weighed 300 shekels of gold, who was armed with a new sword, thought to kill David. Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, came to his aid and attacked the Philistines and killed them. Then David and sought him. You shall no longer go out with us to battle, as she questioned the land of Israel. After this, there was again war with the Philistines at Gath, and Sibbecai the Hushaphat struck down Seth, who was one of the descendants of the giants. And there was again war with the Philistines at Gath, and Elhanan, the son of Jael, Oregon, at Bethlehem, struck down Goliath the Gittite. The star of the Philistines was like a winged smooth. And there was again war at Gath, where there was a man of great stature, who had 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 in number, and he also was descended from the giants. And when he tore it, Jonathan, the son of Shimei, David's brother, struck him down. These 4 were descended from the giants of Gath, and they fell by the hand of David and by the hand of his sons. Proverbs 15. A soft answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs anger. The tongue of the wise commends knowledge, but the mouth of fools pours out folly. The eyes of the Lord are in every place, even watch on the evil and the good. A gentle tongue is true of life, but for the verse and sin it breaks the spirit. A fool despises his father's instruction, but whoever heeds reproof is spirit. In the house of the righteous there is much treasure, but trouble befalls the income of the wicked. The lips of the wise spread knowledge, but not so the hearts of fools. The sacrifice of the wicked is an abomination to them. The way of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord. The prayer of the upright is acceptable to him. The way of the wicked is an abomination to the Lord, but he loves him who pursues righteousness. He is to be disciplined by him before takes away of it, but whoever who prays through reproof will die. Shall a bad light open before the Lord? How much more the hearts of the children of men? A scoffer does not like to be reproved, will not go to the wise. A glad heart makes a cheerful face, but by sorrow of heart the spirit is crushed. The heart of people who understand seeks knowledge, but the mouth of fools feed on folly. All the days of the afflicted are evil, but the cheerful of heart has continual peace. There is little with the fear of the Lord than great treasure and trouble with it. There is a dinner of herbs with lovers, and a fat ox and hatred with it. A hot-tempered man stirs a strife, but he who is slow to anger hides contention. The way of a sluggard is like a hedge of thorns, but the path of the upright is a level highway, and wisdom is with wrath. The foolish man despises his mother. Folly is joy to him who lacks that, but a man understanding walks straight ahead. Without counsel plans fail, but with many advices they succeed. To make an apt answer is a joy to a man, and a word must see how good it is. The path of life leads upward for the prudent, and he may turn away from sharp beneath. The Lord tears down the house of the proud, but maintains the widow's boundaries. Now the thoughts of the wicked are an abomination to the Lord, but gracious words are pure. Whoever greedy for unjust gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes will live. And the heart of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things. The Lord is far from the wicked. He is prepared for the righteous. The light of the eyes rejoices the heart, and goodness refreshes the mind. He that listens to a life-giving reproof will dwell among the wise. Whoever ignores instruction despises himself, but he who listens to reproof gains intelligence. The fear of the Lord is instruction and wisdom, but humility comes before honor. Psalm 139. O Lord, you search me and know me. You know when I sit down and when I rise up. You discern my thoughts from afar. You search my path and my lying down. And I am acquainted with all my ways, even before a word is on my tongue. Behold, O Lord, you know it altogether. You hem me in behind and before, and lay your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. It is high, I cannot attain it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Or where shall I flee from your presence? Now, if I ascend to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there. And if I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, and your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness shall cover me, and the light about me shall be night, and even the darkness is not dark to you. The night is as bright as the day, the darkness is as light with thee. Where you form my inward parts, you knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, for I am faithfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it very well. My frame was not hidden from me. When I was being made intricately woven in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed substance. In your book were written every one of them, in the days that were formed before me. When as yet there was none of them. How precious to me are your thoughts, O Lord. How vast is the sum of them. If I would count them, they are more than the same. I awake and I am still with you. Without you, it's like the wicked, O God. There are men of blood depart from me. They speak against you with malicious intent. Your enemies take your name in vain. Do I not hate you? Hate those who hate you, O Lord. And do not loathe those who rise against you. I hate them with complete hatred. I count them as right with my enemies. Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts, and see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Now that's done, I shall now do the Lord's prayer. Please bow your heads. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us today our daily bread. Forgive us our debts as we also forgive our debtors. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. For yours is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. See you tomorrow. Bye.